What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Pittsburgh Pirates franchise here on MLB The Show 22. In today's video, we are going to be approaching the trade deadline, which means we're going to be looking to sell a few players. We're going to be looking to add a few players to see what we can do to continue to transform this roster for our goal of competitiveness in 2023. There is one move that I need to update you guys on real quick that I was offered right after I finished recording the last video, and I needed to make sure that I recapped it and didn't forget about it. The White Sox actually decided to offer us a deal. They wanted Chris Stratton, who had been performing very well as a relief pitcher, in return for failed pitching prospect Reynaldo Lopez. And Reynaldo Lopez is an interesting pitching prospect. He is a player that really has not done that well as a member of the Chicago White Sox. I think he had a ton of potential when they brought him up. They really expected him to be a legitimate starter in their rotation for years to come, and he didn't turn out to be that. In his most recent, full year of games played, he had a 5.38 ERA back in 2019. Missed time in most recent years. You can see he only played 8 games in 2020, 20 games in 21, and 24 games in 22. So what I think is this is actually very helpful to both teams, because the White Sox are a team that is looking for an addition to their bullpen that is going to help them in their playoff push and in their playoff hopes. Now, Reynaldo Lopez isn't quite that. Reynaldo Lopez is meant to be a starting pitcher. We may utilize him in our bullpen a little bit right now, but eventually we're going to try to transition him over to just kind of a role player in the starting pitching rotation as we continue to transform this starting pitching rotation, which also allows us to buy a little bit of time for guys like Quinn Priester and Tanaj Thomas that we're hoping to eventually have up in the rotation. This may give us a little bit of wiggle room there. And with that being said, we are only a couple of days away from the end of the month, and that means a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, we needed to make sure that we updated our trade block so that these guys would be available in case a team that is trying to make a playoff push wants one of them for one reason or another. So we did go ahead and add guys like Ben Gamel, Greg Allen, Zach Thompson, JT Brubaker to the trade block, because I feel like those are positions that we now have flexibility on, and we could potentially send those guys out and use younger players to start to get them into the mix and get them prepped and ready to go for next year. And again, that starting pitching position is a little bit more flexible now with the addition of Reynaldo Lopez. I did not put Daniel Vogelbach on the trade block, and the reason for that is I actually really like him on the roster as it stands. He's played pretty well for us. He's added 11 home runs. I'd like to see a little bit more power. I believe we would get more power out of him if I was playing with him more often, and that bodes well for next season for him. But nonetheless, we are also trying to keep as much power on the lineup as possible, which it's something that we're lacking. So nonetheless, we're trying to keep that power, but I did add a bunch of players to the trade block that may strike interest from other teams, and I'll update you guys as trades come in at the end of the month. However, the other thing to mention is that as we approach the trade deadline and go through the trade deadline into the month of August, we are going to finally have the ability to re-sign players. So we're going to go ahead and try to re-sign guys like Brian Hayes and Brian Reynolds so that we can keep them around as the main building blocks for the foundation for this team as we approach the future. That's one thing that's going to be a little bit tough for us to be realistic on because of the fact that we cannot negotiate those team-friendly contracts. And ladies and gentlemen, the first of our major trades is rolling in here. Now, this may be considered major or not for you guys, but ultimately what we ended up getting was a couple of offers from the Red Sox. They were very persistent in determining who they wanted from our team, and we got offers repetitively for Ben Gamel. They must really want that corner outfielder. I don't know why, but they keep offering for him. And they were also offering for various different first basemen throughout our organization. So we're going to go ahead and send them both Ben Gamel and Jacob Gonzalez in return for Johan Mieses, I believe is how it's said. I tried to look up a pronunciation for it. I'll probably butcher it a couple of times before I finally get it right. But he's sitting behind Alex Verdugo. He's sitting behind other top-notch players out there in the outfield. He's also not performing very well on the season, only batting like 227. So he's going to be a major trade piece for us in this. And the only other thing that I'm adding back in return on this trade is a bottom level starting pitcher prospect in Brian Bello. I just kind of like the velocity that I saw out of this guy. I thought maybe I could develop him into a potential starter one day, or maybe I could develop him into a bullpen arm one way or the other. A really kind of, bottom of the pack type of a prospect to add to it, and I feel like they're getting the better prospect out of this with Miesis being 26 years old, but I'm hoping that we might be able to develop his power a little bit, and the reason for that is when we actually take a look at him, he's a 70 overall, 67 power on both sides, and that's what I'm liking to see. If I'm going to trade these guys away, I got to try to evaluate and address some of the needs that I think we have on the roster, and so I do like that in him. I like the power that he potentially brings to the roster. Next up, as we literally approach the trade deadline here, pretty much the final day or next to last day to be able to submit trades, what we decided to do was we decided to go out and make a little bit of a splash, an interesting move. Some may like it, some may not like it. What we decided to do was we decided to move on from our starting pitcher, Zach Thompson. What we decided to do was send him over to the Twins in order to give them a better starter in their rotation, which they looked like they could utilize, and they were certainly trying to trade for. And in return, we brought back Miguel Cino, who is pretty much a failed prospect of sorts for the Twins, and a lot of people have been talking about them trading him and the potential for a trade because of how much he struggled at the plate and has struggled at the plate. So if we actually take a look at him, he is on a $10 million contract, which we were somehow able to fit in. I don't really understand, because prior to this trade, it was telling me I don't really have enough money to re-sign players because of the budget thing, but then it tells me I have 50 mil in open budget, and when I go to trade, it tells me I have 50 mil in open budget, and it lets me trade for a guy like Miguel Cino. But nonetheless, this is a guy that struggles with his batting average, but adds a ton of power. You can see 34 home runs in 2019, 30 home runs last year. This is exactly what we need, and he's going to be sitting there at first base with Daniel Vogelbach for right now. But he's also a player that can play the corner outfield spots. As you can see, he can play third base, so we'll probably move him around, and trust me, this is not necessarily going to logjam Mason Martin right now. This is just in an effort to add more power to the lineup, especially with the DH spot being around. Mason Martin will have a spot on this team probably come September at the very least, and maybe even earlier than that depending on how things play out. But that was really kind of the splashy type of a trade that I wanted to make. I mean, obviously Cino is not necessarily the best player in the world, but I think we can get more out of him, and a change of scenery is going to do him some good. I'm actually really excited about this move, and I'm excited to show you guys some of what we have going on with these players whenever we can actually get into a game. But outside of that, what that then allows us to do is one of two things. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but we're going to probably move Reynaldo Lopez back to the starting pitching rotation, and that is going to be what our fifth guy is in the starting pitching rotation, which leaves us with Keller, Brubaker, Contreras, Wilson, and then again, like I said, that's going to be Reynaldo Lopez. One thing that I am considering is sending Bryce Wilson down for some time in the minors and bringing up Adonis Medina for some time in the majors, because I really think we might be able to get something out of him as well. The only problem is he just recently went on the injured list, so that kind of prevented me from being able to do that right here and now. Now, the really interesting thing that I think this is going to positively affect for our team is the amount of power that we have in the lineup. And I know I've discussed this already, but we now have multiple power hitters. We have Vogelbach, we have Miesis, we also have now Miguel Cino, who all are able to take the ball deep and are all able to add that power that our lineup just simply hasn't had prior to this. And I think that that's going to be a massive help for us for years to come to establish various different players that could potentially push for those roles in our lineup and push the ball out of the park for us to help us compete with the other teams in the division that do have that type of a power. Now, obviously, none of these moves are perfect. None of these moves moves are ideal. Certainly, none of these guys is going to be the perfect solution. We have to work on these guys and getting more out of them, but I really do like what I've done with these trades in order to try to be, you know, I guess somewhat realistic with it, not going after the best names out there or anything like that. We're not really bringing in anybody that's above like a 72 or anything like that. In fact, our overall probably went down with these trades, trading away Zach Thompson, but nonetheless, I think that this helps with our flexibility. I think that this helps keep us on track for what I'm looking to do with this team, and maybe it'll even give us a chance to compete even further as we move through the end of the season. As we stand right now, we are 51 and 54. I don't know exactly what is going on with the contract system here within the game. It was giving me problems being able to sign players before, and then all of a sudden I came back into it and it wasn't, and we added to our payroll by getting Miguel Cino particularly, who's costing us $10 million. So I really don't know what's going on with that. Unfortunately, I had to sign them to crazy contracts that are far above what they actually signed them to in real life. So we did get Brian Reynolds on a front-loaded contract, which should help us in the long run. And then Ke'Bryan Hayes, I was able to sign to a 4-year deal, $3.1 million per year. Also, not anything like his real-life contract, but I figure if it's going to let me get it out of the way now with the players that I really, really care about, let's go ahead and get those contracts done. We were able to do that, and now we are set up for basically the rest of the season, and hopefully going to get you guys some gameplay very soon with these new guys and new additions to the roster. You know what? We might as well go into this game against the Phillies here on August 31st, which is the trade deadline, and I'm going to put some of these guys into the lineup for you and hopefully get a little bit of gameplay viewing with all of them, so we can at least see some of what we acquired here at the trade deadline and if it might potentially pay off for us. We are at PNC Park for today's game, pitching with Mitch Keller, so we'll go ahead and give him a good inning before we get to some of the batters that I want to demonstrate. And I do still have to edit Miesi's to make him look a little bit more like his actual real-life image. But we'll get to that, and that will be probably demonstrated after this video, probably demonstrated in one of the future videos. First strikeout for Keller, got him swinging on the high slider. Mitch Keller has been one of, if not the strongest members of our pitching rotation this season, which is fantastic to see his progression in the right direction. We've used him quite a bit, and we've certainly made sure to focus on his development more than anybody else. So that's certainly one of the reasons he's doing really well for us. 3-0 count here, though, so we're going to have to come after him. We do walk one batter, so that's going to be a man on first with 1 out in the inning. So it looks like we're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive with our pitches. Bryce Harper up to bat, takes that one right back to first, and that is going to be Cino with the double play. The brand new addition to the roster makes a quick reacting play at first base. Actually a little bit surprised with how good that was. Let's go ahead and get another look. I mean, not the craziest play that I've ever seen in the world here, but Cino adding to the roster. I'm going to have to change 22 because we don't want him to have McCutcheon's number. And my boy Cash and Checks 5923, if you haven't checked out his channel, check it out. He does a lot of stuff with Pirates and whatnot. He'll be happy that I recognize that right off the bat because I usually struggle with getting numbers right. So I'll have to fix that after this video, but there it is. Catches the ball mid-air, comes around for the tag, and gets us out of the first inning. The brand new addition to the team, already making a name for himself. I feel like I haven't shown you guys much of Ke'Bryan Hayes this season, a little bit here and there as we've gone through. Might as well take an at-bat with our leadoff guy. He is batting leadoff for us today. He doesn't always bat leadoff, but he has been up and down at times. There's a nicely hit ball, but grounded into third base for the out. That's the type of stuff that I've been kind of seeing from him a lot. I really feel like they haven't necessarily got his ratings right within the game. But nonetheless, that's where we stand with him. Now Cole Tucker up to bat, another one that I really have not shown you guys. (0-2) count. We're going to have to shorten up. Cole Tucker does have the athleticism to make it on base if we just hit a ball decently. That one was close. Almost got a hold of that one for a single. Could have even have been a double. Again, fouling one off. Oh, and we're going to get hit by the pitch there. 1 out, and that puts a man on first base. I don't know if that's a change that they did to MLB this year, but they certainly have added a lot of hit by pitches, it feels like. And maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe it's just me, but I've heard other people talking about it as well. A lot of hit by pitches this year. I don't know if maybe that's to maybe look a little bit more like real life. Ooh, another well-hit ball, but right into the double play by Reynolds. Just not enough power behind that to get it through the gap. And that'll sit down all 3 in the bottom of the first inning. All right, our first at-bat with Johan Mieses. I think I said it partially correct. I mean, the announcers, the broadcast announcers in the game are not correct. Most of the time, they still pronounce it O'Neal Cruz, not O'Neal Cruz. So that one's a little bit of an oddity. And hey, we might as well take an at-bat with Nick Gonzalez here as well. He's pretty solid against lefties. I need to be a little bit more patient with these young guys. I was swinging too early with Mieses. Maybe if somebody in the comment section or a viewer knows how to pronounce that name properly, they can let me know, because I'm going to be certainly looking for the proper pronunciation now that he's one of those power hitters that I'm looking to develop. Made contact on that one, but yet again, another line out for one of the young guns on this team. Have not been able to get anything going in the hit department yet. And here we go, the big boy Miguel Cino, temporarily wearing Andrew McCutcheon's number. 8 years with Minnesota, so that means he was brought up at the age of 20. Oh, that's going to be a well-hit ball, and I think that's going to drop in. First at-bat with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he gets himself a hit. Fantastic result to start off his career here in Pittsburgh. Maybe that's the step in the right direction that we need. And ultimately, we did come away victorious 4-3 in that matchup. Not a whole lot really going on in that one, but a good way to finish out the month of July. So 52 and 54 is where we sit heading into the end of the season. You know, we have the month of August ahead of us, the month of September. It's going to be interesting to see some of the opponents that we have lined up for the rest of the season. Hopefully you guys are excited based on the changes that we've made. Again, not a massive change in our approach to what we're going to be doing moving forward, just a few minor adjustments to add some power to the lineup, try to bring in some prospects that might need a fresh look or something like that. And ultimately, I'm pretty excited about the direction that we're headed. So like I said, I hope you are too. And if you are, leave a like down below, comment as well, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.